June 13, 2018 Prosper Portland Board of Commissioners meeting is convened. Pam, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner Platt?
Here.
Commissioner Gambetti?
Here.
Commissioner Moreland Capuya?
Here.
Commissioner Myers?
Here.
Chair Cruz?
Here. Thank you. All right, we'll start with Commissioner reports. Commissioner Platt, would you like to start?
Nothing to report.
Nothing to report.
Commissioner,
Yeah, just briefly participated in the Celebrate Trade event last month on the 16th, and then the Hill Block meeting last week. I don't have the date, but I will get those to you. But I was there, present, and accounted for.
Great, thank you. Let's see, I went on May 10th. I attended the 30th Annual Oregon Association of Minority Entrepreneurs Luncheon and Trade Show. On May 11th, I attended the Hispanic Metropolitan Chamber of Commerce Annual Scholarship Luncheon. May 15th, I attended the Hispanic Metropolitan Chamber of Commerce Board meeting. May 21st, I attended the Northwest District Association Annual Membership Meeting. June 1st, I attended the Mayor's Council of Economic Advisors Quarterly Meeting. June 3rd, I attended the Catholic Charities Everyone Comes From Somewhere brunch event for immigrant and refugee communities. June 4th, I attended a Prosper Portland Audit Liaison meeting. And June 6th, I attended the Autodesk grand opening in the town storage building in the Central East Side. So I clearly need to get a life. All right, Executive Director Branham.
Good afternoon, Chair Cruz, Commissioners. It's been a busy month, and we appreciate that you're able and willing to invest the time. So I too attended the Hill Block Project Working Group meetings on May 9th and June 6th, along with Dr. Moreland Capuya, and attended the groundbreaking for Red East on May 16th, which is a 2-block development in Portland's historic Central East Side. It's a project of EcoTrust, and it's really designed to support and scale a robust food economy across the Pacific Northwest. Prosper Portland was pleased to be able to invest some small-scale grants in that project. Along with Mayor Wheeler and Dr. Moreland Capuya, I attended the Oregon Counselor Corps Celebrate Trade event on May 16th and attended the City Club Gala also on May 16th to acknowledge the last 100 years or 102 years of City Club and to look towards the next 100 years. Attended Broadway Corridor Steering Committee on May 22nd as we begin the next phase of our work on the Broadway Corridor with the full team, with CGF and Continuum. Attended the Fair Housing Council of Oregon's Historic Bus Tour on May 23rd, along with a number of Prosper Portland staff and other city partners. It's part of our ongoing equity training and our focus on becoming a learning organization. We participated in a bus tour that explores the history of discrimination, displacement, and segregation in Portland. It's something that there's a 2-year waiting list, so but it's well worth it to wait, and so would recommend that anyone who hasn't taken that tour to go to fhco.com and see how you can learn more. Participated in the Oregon Association of Minority Entrepreneurs Coffee and Issue event along with our Hill Block partner, Dr. George Brown. Want to acknowledge that his last day at Legacy is June 17th and appreciate his partnership throughout our work together on the Hill Block. And we had an opportunity to talk about that project with local diverse entrepreneurs. I attended the Mayor's Quarterly meeting of Mayor's Council of Economic Advisors on June 1st. And want to recognize the staff who helped to bring Autodesk to the Innovation Quadrant. For those who don't know, it is a 3D design software. It's moved to the old town storage. It's really, they've done a beautiful job with that building. There will be more than 200 employees. And I want to thank Bobby Lee and Trolls Adrian, Pam Neal, Jared Weiner, Geraldine Moyle, Kevin Johnson, and Ann Megan for their support and involvement. It's a big deal for that area. I spoke at the opening of the Chinatown Museum on June 7th, which if you haven't gone to see it, please do check it out. It's on Davis Street between Northwest 3rd and 4th. It represents years of collaboration amongst Portland's Chinese American elders, leaders, community associations, businesses, and volunteers. It's a dynamic museum in which the front part are more contemporary. Right now there's images of Old Town Chinatown, and then there will be a permanent installation that will borrow from works, or a portion that was at the Oregon Historical Society, so that will be the permanent story that will be there. It was made possible by generous support from local leaders and more than $200,000 in grants from Prosper Portland, as well as a number of community foundations. I want to recognize Sarah Harpole and Bernie Karofsky for their work. It really was a long-term endeavor and a partnership, and really appreciate their leadership on that. I spoke as a panelist at the PGE Board of Directors board meeting on June 11th to talk a little bit about what's happening at Broadway Corridor. PGE has some very innovative ideas of how to use the smart grid and other new kinds of technologies to make it as sustainable as possible. So it was fantastic to be able to talk to their leadership about how we make good on our aspirations. So in the coming month, I want to invite everyone to come out to the Juneteenth celebration on Saturday, June 16th. It's a Portland tradition. The parade marches down Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard and will be followed by a day-long festival of live music, arts, and culture, along with an exhibit of educational booths, cultural booths, and a children's play area. Staff from Prosper Portland will be on hand to talk a little bit about our work and to stop by and say hello. You can find out more at the Urban League's website, ulpdx.org. On June 19th, Prosper Portland is hosting a meet and greet with the selected developer of Centennial Mills, Lind Development Company. The event will be held here at Prosper Portland from 6 to 7:30. You can find out more at prosperportland.us and then click on Events and Meeting. The next meeting of the North-Northeast Community Development Initiative is set for Thursday, June 29th from 6 to 8 p.m. at Billy Webb Elks Lodge. Again, you can find out more on our website, prosperportland.us. The annual Good in the Hood Festival is coming up June 22nd to 24th. Prosper Portland staff will also be on hand there, so again, come say hello. And you can find out more at goodinthehood.org for more information. We are proud to sponsor the 5th annual Taste of Park Rose, Saturday, June 23rd at Rossi Farms. Again, you can find out more on our website, but there's a lot that's happening, in these coming weeks as we get into summer festivals. So finally, I just want to invite everyone to join me for the second edition of my Pupils Market, which will be held on Saturday, June 30th from noon to 8 p.m. at the Rose Quarter Commons. The event will showcase more than 100 local multicultural vendors. There will be live music, art, performances, and lots to eat and drink. This is a partnership between Prosper Portland and Travel Portland to present the market. Many people have been involved in curating and selecting the 100 local vendors, and I especially want to acknowledge Tori Campbell, who was one of the co-creators along with Travel Portland, as well as Amanda Park, Yvonne Smoker, Kim Moreland, Ann Mangan, and Bobby Lee. So go to mypeoplesmarket.com for details. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Those are great upcoming events, too. Super. Okay, so next up, we just have to approve some minutes. This is item 4. Would somebody like to make a motion to approve the minutes for May 9th?
Motion to approve.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay.
Aye.
Great, thank you. Okay, we have no public comment. So now we'll get to our consent agenda. This time what we're going to do is go through each item individually, and we have some logic for that this time. So we'll start with item 6, which is to authorize a $125,000 grant to Greater Portland, Inc. Would someone like to make a motion to approve the grant?
I move to approve the grant.
Second? All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Number 7, we have a motion, I would appreciate a motion to adopt resolution number 7274, and this is authorizing short-term interfund operating loans not to exceed $1 million from specified funds to the Community Development Block Grant Economic Opportunity Initiative Fund and Neighborhood Prosperity Initiative, Urban Renewal Area Funds from July 1, 2018 to June 30, 2019.
Motion to approve.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. All right. And number 8, we have a resolution, this is resolution number 7275. And this is to approve and ratify a regional infrastructure fund application to support Hacienda Community Development Corporation's proposed at Las Adelitas project.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve? All right.
Second.
Good.
Chairman Cruz, I'd like to disclose that as the board chair of Hacienda CDC, legal counsel has informed me that there is no legal conflict of interest with voting on this matter, but I will abstain from the vote.
Okay, great. Thank you, sir. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Commissioner Myers?
Sorry about that. Aye.
Aye. Okay. Let the record reflect, he said aye. All right. All right. So now we're on to number 9. And this is a, excuse me, just one moment. Okay. So the Prosper Portland Board of Commissioners will now recess in order to convene the Tax Supervising Conservation Commission public hearing on the Prosper Portland fiscal year 2018 to 2019 approved budget. Welcome to our, yeah.
Thank you. Well, this can take a second to get set up.
I want to be you.
No, you can be Mark.
Be me.
You can be Mark. Not me.
No, I think it's at the convention center, but confirm. Convention center?
Kitty guys.
Everybody's down a little bit.
All right.
Thank you.
Oh, it's already out.
Oh, okay, cool.
Just turned it off.
That'll be fun. Yeah.
I think we're ready to start. Great. So, good afternoon. I call to order the annual Prosper Portland budget hearing. My name is David Behringer, and I am the chair of the Tax Supervising and Conservation Commission. And I welcome you all to this hearing. I will now ask my fellow commissioners and the TSC staff to introduce themselves. And if any commissioner has a business relationship with the district and it could be perceived as a conflict of interest, please identify that.
Brendan Watkins. I'm an investment banker with Piper Jaffray. I've been on the commission for, this is my 6th budget cycle through. And we do not have any business relationships with Prosper Portland, so no conflicts of interest there.
I'm James Offsing, Vice Chair of TSCC. This is my 3rd year as a commissioner. When I'm not doing this, I work at OHSU, so no conflict of interest with the district.
Good afternoon. I'm Margot Norton. This is also my 3rd year on the commission. I am retired. My career was in government finance. I retired from Metro, the regional government, as their CFO.
I'm Mark Wibold. I'm a senior policy analyst in the President's Office at Portland State University. This is my 2nd year on the TSCC, and I have no financial conflicts with Prosper Portland.
Craig Gibbons, I'm staff, commission.
Tony Bechart, staff.
Great. We are conducting this hearing as a service to the district and the public. The purpose of this hearing is to promote public discussion of the budget. The commission wants this discussion to promote thoughtful consideration of current and future budget issues. The commission is responsible for evaluating the district's budget process. At the conclusion of our meeting, we will certify the degree to which the district's process conformed to Oregon local budget law. The district will make the first presentation this afternoon, and then the commission will ask several questions and discuss the budget with you. Following discussion, we will take testimony from the public if there are comments or questions from the public. And there was a sign-up sheet.
Yes, there is a sign-up sheet. It'll be outside by the door.
Okay, outside by the door. With that, I'll ask the district to introduce themselves.
Thank you, Chair Berenger, and thank you to all the commissioners for attending. We really appreciate you being here. As with prior years, the development of the budget is truly a collaborative effort that includes significant staff time, a budget work session, and coordination with our 20-member Budget Advisory Committee. The committee, whose members represent a diverse array of stakeholders, met 4 times over the course of the budget cycle and provided invaluable input. Staff also reviewed specific URA budgets with a dozen community business and neighborhood organizations to receive input on budget allocations, supporting projects, and programs supporting URA action plans. Over the last month, our budget was presented to City Council for approval, and through that process, the budget you received reflects additional city resources being added to programs that directly impact building an equitable economy, such as the Inclusive Business Resource Network. I am proud of this agency's work moving forward the priorities established in the budget and look forward to seeing the impact of our work by the implementation of the programs and projects in the coming fiscal year. I also want to thank Prosper Portland staff and the many volunteers for your great work in helping us put this budget together. With that, I would turn it back to Chair Berenger.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Board Chair. We also would like the names of the other commissioners.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Thank you.
Yes, good afternoon. Welcome. I'm Peter Platt, or Commissioner Platt, and in my non-commissioner role, I am the founder and family owner of Andina Restaurant here in the Pearl.
And I am Francesca Gambetti, and when I'm not here at Prosper Portland, I am a partner at Shields Oblitz Johnson, which is a project management firm that manages the construction of public, private, and nonprofit facilities.
Good afternoon. I'm Alicia Moreland Capuya, and my day job is a doctor. I'm a physician at OHSU.
Commissioner Myers? Okay.
Is he on the phone?
Yes. You can comment later. But most of you know me. I'm Tavo Cruz. I'm a business lawyer with Farley Wada Witt here in town, and I've been on the commission now for about 3 years or so. So thank you. Okay.
I'm Kimberly Branham. I'm Executive Director here at Prosper Portland. I've been with the agency for just about 7 years now, and in this role for under 2 years. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. With that, we'll start our questions then. Mark?
So I have the first question, and when we came and visited you last year, you had just made a name change, a branding change in a sense, from Portland Development Commission to Prosper Portland. Can you tell us what effect that's had on your enterprise?
Sure. I'd be happy to take that question. So as we continue to live into the goals and objectives of our strategic plan, we strive to embrace different approaches to our work. And that means engaging the community early on in the process of technical analysis, decision-making, and partnership development. More specifically, we've learned to intentionally center the experiences, voices, and expertise of people of color and others most adversely impacted by market forces in our processes and projects to ensure we achieve different outcomes. We as a city and as an organization have learned that we must understand and talk about the role public policy and public investment has played in creating inequity and displacement in our city, and intentionally address those impacts. We've learned the importance of celebrating success, diverse partnerships, and inclusion in creating vibrant, welcoming places and opportunities for commerce. We are embracing the opportunity for Prosper Portland to be a learning organization, more like a learning collaborative, which means working differently and more collaboratively. This is an exercise in how many ways we can or how many times we can use the word collaborative. You catching that? Okay, because that is the theme here today. That also means exhibiting and demonstrating patience and understanding that it'll take a consistent effort and considerable time for many of our stakeholders to get comfortable with the shift to becoming Prosper Portland.
Thank you.
Well, continuing on that, we'll switch from collaboration to equity here.
Yes, okay.
One of the messages that we read from your budget was the kind of the pivot in your activity, a pivot that even has a tagline, building an equitable economy. We were out at the port this morning. We were talking about their prosperity lens and how they use prosperity as one of their decision-making tools. So can you tell us about your equitable economy? What does that mean? How is it reflected in the budget? How do you measure the success of the activities that you've been engaged in?
That's my question. So first, I'll preface by saying, as the founder and one of the family owners of a family-run business, small business, and as an immigrant, the son of an immigrant, I speak with some intimate knowledge of the challenges that many small businesses have, particularly those whose owners or founders don't have access or haven't historically had access to the kinds of opportunities my family and I have had. So, so to answer the question around what is an equitable economy, the way we've defined it as an agency has been that building an equitable economy means sharing the gains of growth across all communities, neighborhoods, and constituencies, irrespective of background. So, as alluded to earlier, you know, the history of our country, the state, and the city has not always been entirely equitable. So we have some work to do, and that's the work that Prosper Portland has committed itself to and has very consciously pivoted towards. So it's one of the reasons, frankly, that I've joined the commission. So to unpack that answer, our work as an agency with small businesses has continuing to leverage Prosper Portland's unique convening power to grow and enhance partnerships with outside agencies and nonprofits that address wealth inequities and increase the success of diverse entrepreneurs. So again, it's very much a small business lens. So we are providing culturally specific technical assistance through our Inclusive Business Resource Network, referenced earlier. And those partners include organizations like APANO, Hacienda CDC, the Hispanic Metropolitan Chamber, Immigrant and Refugee Community Organization, Microenterprise Services Oregon, Native American Youth and Family Center, et cetera. There's a whole list you can go on the website and review. And I have to say I've been very impressed with the way that the staff at Prosper Portland has really created a sharing platform amongst agencies that sometimes are going after the same pot of money, right? And in order to leverage that in a way that is, I think, more impactful. So using the resources already available and using, again, the convening power and organizational power to drive better results. So you get more bang for the buck, so to speak. So in addition to the IBRN, the agency has created a platform called Mercatus, or Mercatus, depending upon your pronunciation, to elevate the narratives of local entrepreneurs of color, working with diverse storytellers and photographers. It's like a business network and co-marketing platform, if you will. And through that, they produce the My People's Market, event, which was referenced earlier as well, and one upcoming in June 30th. So to get to the results, in terms of numbers, the past 2 years, 81% of businesses served by the IBRN, as well as the Prosperity Investment Program and workforce development efforts, are owned by people of color. So it shows that we are very much focused in our efforts, and that's reflected in the participation in these programs. And in the past year alone, we've also created the Council for Economic and Racial Equity, a 23-member advisory body that's charged with helping ensure racial and economic equity as the primary lenses used in Prosper Portland's policies, programs, projects, and strategies to advance equitable outcomes. And we've also sought new and more diverse membership for the Budget Advisory Committee, which was obviously heavily involved in the budget development process. So in terms of the budget, Prosper Portland's budget directly supporting these efforts is approximately $10 million for next year based on non-TIF City General Fund, Enterprise Zone, and Community Development Block Grant resources. That said, there's another $156 million of economic and urban development work in the URAs supporting these efforts by implementing equity-focused programs as well. So it's a fairly comprehensive approach, I think, to advancing equity, and one that I think puts the minority entrepreneur at the heart of the program, and I think that's the right focus if you're looking to grow wealth in communities that have historically not had those opportunities. So I think it's a good approach. It's a long-term approach, but we're already beginning to see the results.
Just a follow-up question. How are you doing on getting minority communities involved early on in the planning process? That always seems to be the most difficult
Absolutely.
part of it.
It's an excellent question. I think the connections that have been forged at the staff level with the different neighborhood councils and representatives of the different industries within our industry clusters are that's where the action is, right? And those relationships built at that level then draw people in, and then oftentimes within communities that may have had I would say a little bit of trepidation in getting involved, right? Now see that there are results and that it's a good thing to be part of that community and that resource network. And so we're starting to see, we see that in the growth trends, year over year. So I think we're heading in the right direction. There's still more work to do, but I feel that as an agency, the pipelines have been laid and the programs are there to provide the resources as people then come and ask for them. So I'm looking forward to continuing the work.
Okay, great. Thank you. I'm going to shift the direction a little bit and talk about money. So last year you talked about your diminishing resources, your projection of diminishing resources, and the need to create financial stability. How has the draft financial sustainability plan evolved, and how has it informed your work?
Thank you. That's a great question. And the topic of diminishing resources is obviously very important to the agency, and we will have increasing focus on it in the years to come. But right now, after significant input from key stakeholders and a review by City Council, the financial sustainability plan is at about 90% draft, and staff will present it to this board for approval later this summer. The financial sustainability plan aligns with our strategic plan and establishes a new business model with 4 key components: to optimize both public benefits and financial returns of the remaining tax increment funds and existing real estate assets, to secure additional public funding to support economic and community development programs, to partner with public agencies to deliver real estate development activities that achieve public priorities, and to seek additional revenues for capital and operations by leveraging core staff expertise. Staff has already begun operationalizing the financial sustainability plan principles, particularly by instituting a global grants and infrastructure budget and by classifying real estate with a return target. For example, staff recently led a solicitation to identify a development partner for the ODOT Blocks property in the Central East Side Urban Renewal Area. This property was identified in the financial sustainability plan as a mission-related investment through which the agency could recoup a long-term return to invest in future priorities. As such, the solicitation document required developers to submit proposals consistent with these return targets, and we have recently selected a partner to work with on the ODOT blocks who we believe will help us achieve these financial goals as well as deliver on public goals. Finally, later today, staff will provide a detailed update on these asset management activities and how they are delivering on the agency's financial goals. So I guess in summary, I could say that we're making progress. We're working on it.
Okay. That sounds
Thank
good.
you.
Can you also talk to us about the agency's efforts to develop new resources? When we were here last year, I believe there was talk of another organization that was being spun up that was going to be an opportunity, I think, to leverage federal funds. And at that time, it was unclear how much money we were talking about. And so on our side of the table, we were unclear about how much emphasis we should place on it. So now that we're a year in, just wondering how the search for additional resources is looking.
Thank you, and that's also a great question. Again, I would say we're working on it at identifying additional sources. The 90% draft financial sustainability plan notes that the agency's primary objective over the next 5 to 7 years is to optimize the agency's remaining resources. This work has already begun, and as staff has identified all funding as grants or infrastructure, program-related investments, and mission-related investments. We have begun to seek other new non-tax increment financing resources, such as our efforts to secure an allocation of the federal new markets tax credits, which is, I believe, what you're referring to. In addition, Prosper Portland has secured a portion of the City of Portland's cannabis tax allocation. Additionally, over the past year, the board requested that the City Council authorize that Prosper Portland become the city's administrator of the Regionally Significant Industrial Sites Program. This program, which is managed by Business Oregon, allows for public partners to recoup a portion of their investments into new redevelopment projects that generate jobs and income tax revenue. While they are not new resources, Prosper Portland fared well in the city's general fund budgeting process this year, too. Later on in today's agenda, staff will request that the board authorize administrative rules for the Affordable Commercial Bonus Program. This program allows developers to increase the density of their projects if they agree to provide affordable commercial space or to pay into a fund that will be managed by Prosper Portland. So I think it's fair to say that we're exploring a wide range of alternatives and additional resources, and we're still trying to identify the ones that will work best long-term.
That's great. We're really happy to hear about the diversified revenue streams. Can you add, I guess, any more detail to the new market tax credit stuff, how much it has panned out to be in this year?
I might defer that. Oh, go ahead. Are you?
Follow up with that.
Sure.
So,
Thank you.
well, just to put some context, so last year, Prosper Portland staff submitted an application for an allocation of new market tax credits under the entity of Portland Community Investment Fund, PCIF. So unfortunately, they didn't get the allocation, but the grant was, the proposal, I think, was very competitive. There were about 230 applicants, and only 73 of the applicants, so about a third were awarded funding. Only 7 of these were on the West Coast, and none of them were in Oregon or Washington. There's also been a real focus on rural projects and rural communities, so that's one of the challenges. But only 30% of the awardees were real estate projects like PCIF. 70% of them were offering operating business finance. So this year, I think they have $3.5 billion. Do you know, Kimberly, how much they're allocating? I think it's 3.5. So Prosper Portland staff are preparing another application. In May of 2018, the opportunity came out from the Community Development Financial Institution Fund, the CDFI fund, announcing another call for applications. So staff is in process right now of preparing that and submitting that. So if they're successful, they would be prepared to potentially deploy funds as early as spring of 2019. So they're taking another go at it. Yeah.
So we've noticed some uptick in the Lent area. Activity is somewhat visible. We also know that this is one of the URAs that's coming up on its deadline. But more generally, since we talk with and hear jurisdictions all over the county, we're conscious of the East Portland aspect. So we want to know, your budget message talks about an emphasis in East Portland, and we'd like to hear more about that, what your plans are and what you see perhaps more than in just this budget, but on the go-forward period.
We had allocated our questions among the various commissioners, and this was for Commissioner Myers. So let's see if he's with us. Commissioner Myers? Okay. Why don't I go ahead? We have a prepared answer, so bear with me. I'll oh, yes. Sorry if I gave anything up there. All right. In Gateway, staff is in negotiations with development partners to finalize financing for the 106th and Halsey project. This mixed-use, mixed-income project is adjacent to the 3-acre Gateway Discovery Park, which Prosper Portland purchased in 2008 and is currently in construction. Staff is also working with a development team on the 102nd and Pacific property, a 10-acre site that is envisioned as a multi-generational project, including senior housing, an elementary school, and community college classroom space. In Lentz, 5 projects in the town center are nearing completion. Staff is also engaged in the Foster Floodplain Initiative, exploring industrial job growth in an area known as Freeway Lands. Prosper Portland continues to support the 8 community-based organizations participating in the Neighborhood Prosperity Network. For example, we support the Rose Apano Affordable Mixed-Use Development Project at Southeast 82nd and Division in the Jade District. Likewise, we are partnering with the Bureau of Planning and Sustainability on a grant application to Metro to fund pre-development work and local area planning for the Rosewood Initiative. We're also expanding the Workforce Navigator Initiative that prioritizes jobs and career services in the NPI districts. Staff is currently working with the Mayor's Office and partners at the Portland Housing Bureau and the Bureau of Planning and Sustainability to assess needs throughout East Portland, including the Neighborhood Prosperity Initiative districts. In all cases, Gateway, Lentz, and the NPIs, staff continues to explore whether expanded or new urban renewal areas could also meet community needs, but there are no formal plans for new URAs as of now. So things are definitely happening in East Portland. So, any other comments on that? No? Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to take the next one, and guys, keeping with the theme of East Side urban renewal plans. Next year's interstate urban renewal plan, or next year the interstate urban renewal plan includes a large affordable housing allocation. And I got, I guess, 2 questions here, but then also kind of a follow-up on that, and I'll lead with the follow-up is, first, like, what level of affordable, or how are you measuring that affordability in terms of the actual index that you're going to go against? And then what's the plan for this project, and if you've lined up any partners yet?
Yeah, so I'll take the part of that question, and we'll kind of do a group answer. We'll phone a friend here, okay? So with the revised housing set-aside policy that was adopted by the council in 2015, approximately 70% of all new TIF resources are going to be allocated to affordable housing in interstate through the end of the district. So this means about, or approximately $108 million between the start of the amended policy through 2022, which is when we believe maximum indebtedness will be reached. Next year is the largest planned year of spending in the forecast at about $33 million, which was developed by the Housing Bureau based on their planned implementation of affordable multifamily housing project construction, as well as home repair and ownership programs. And according to the Portland Housing Bureau, there are 5 affordable housing projects, tomato, tomato, in the pipeline that will add approximately 257 affordable units.
So in terms of the level of affordability that the commissioner was talking about, these are all set-aside policy resources. And so you'll recall that the 45% of new TIF resources that go over to the Portland Housing Bureau all go over with the set-aside requirements. It's a city council adopted policy, and it states that it basically defines what we mean by affordable.
Yeah.
And so affordable in this context for multifamily is 0 to 60% of area medium income. And for home ownership programs, it goes up to 80%, 0 to 80% of area median income. So there is a small portion within interstate which are non-set-aside resources. That was a priority that was articulated in our community conversation so that we could extend the home ownership programs up to 120% of area median income, understanding that the housing stock within the area is quite expensive, and so we wanted to provide a little bit more flexibility. So there's $5 million that we are putting through the Housing Bureau to support those families as well.
Thank you.
Did you have partners lined up for this, for these projects then? Did you have partners lined up for these?
Well, so again, the Portland Housing Bureau administers all those resources, and so they run the selection process, and so they do have partners in the 5 projects. I believe that they have partners. I'm looking at Tony, right? They've identified partners for all of the 5 because those were all identified through their 2015 NOFA. Yeah.
Thanks.
You can shoot, Dave.
Okay, I got the last one. So recently, we've heard that the City Budget Office has recommended that the council study the costs and benefits of Prosper Portland becoming a city bureau. What are the pros and cons of that idea?
Thank you. The City Budget Office recommended exploration of the pros and cons, particularly if there's a shift to make the organization more reliant on general fund resources as tax increment resources decline. For the next decade or so, Prosper Portland will continue to be an organization that's overwhelmingly funded by tax increment financing. However, in the event that the agencies offered a radical increase in the allocation of general funds, then we will it'll be reasonable to explore the pros and cons of a new governance structure with the City of Portland. But that conversation is likely at least 5 years out. We're starting to discuss it more, and in our budget committee hearings with City Council, they brought it up. So it's definitely out there. Thank you.
In an earlier answer, you had said there were no plans for additional URAs on the east side. That's one of your main ways of growing, right? Is that what the problem is here?
So I think we don't have any formal plans. We are working with our partner bureaus to really assess what the needs are. I think we've learned that starting with a tool can sometimes be the wrong approach. And so we wanted to, rather than starting with an exploration of new urban renewal areas, actually have a cross-agency conversation about what is happening in East Portland. The East Portland Action Plan was adopted about 10 years ago, and so it feels like it's time to really look and see what's happened, what hasn't happened, what's changed in the last 10 years. And so I think we have begun really early stage conversations with some folks about whether tool might, new urban renewal areas or an extension or an expansion might be warranted, but it feels premature given that we haven't had that scan. And so we will be engaging with our partners really to just do that work and then see whether new districts or an extension or expansion might make sense within that context.
Great, thank you. Okay. Thank you all for your contributions to the discussion. I'll now see if anyone from the public signed up to speak. No, they did not. Okay. With that, I'll now close the hearing. Thank you very much for your great answers. Yeah, and I'll open up a meeting of the TSCC. There's any comments from the commissioners on the budget? No? No? Okay. I'll turn the meeting over to the executive director then for his comments and recommendations.
We are recommending that you certify the budget with no objections and no recommendations to changes. I'd also like to point out that there were no budget over expenditures in FY17. The agency had a tendency to overexpend for many years. However, last year, the finance and budget people set about changing that with training of staff throughout the agency. It has paid off. The budget is clean and the audit was clean, and so we're recommending a complete certification.
Excellent. With that, may I have a motion authorizing the commission to sign the certification letter as recommended by the staff?
I'll move.
Do we have a second? Second. Any discussion with that? All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposition? No, the motion carries and the meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for the investment in the budget process.
Yes.
Well, thank you for your time and for your service on the commission.
Welcome.
All right, so we will now reconvene the regular Prosper Portland Board meeting. I'm sorry? Yes. Yeah, well, I'll give them a moment. Yeah. Right. Yeah. I couldn't hear him, yeah.
So,
Okay.
let's just make sure that we have them. It'll become a quote. And let's see,
Right, we need 4, right?
we're gonna need, yeah, we're gonna need,
395,
well, it's
right?
okay, actually, if we're Peter here,
Right.
but if when we get to PSA, if we don't have Willie too, then we'll kind of have to pivot. So we'll figure it out.
Okay, sounds good.
It only happens 4 times a year, so.
Not just any restaurant, that's what I'm saying. Hey, Adina? Yeah. Yeah. Better process than you, Peter.
It wasn't that bad once.
I'm off my game today.
I'll see what ends up happening.
Really is essential. I mean, because that's the one thing are actually important elements.
Upcoming item, affordable commercial. Tracy's the member of the trustee. So,
Great, saw her on that.
okay, so we're all rearranged, so we'll be ready.
Okay, good. Thank you, sir.
Extra spunky today, so I'll just.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and get started again. We are on item 10. And Mr. Barnes. Welcome back.
Thank you. Well, good afternoon, Chair Cruz, Commissioners, Executive Director Branham. I'm Tony Barnes, Finance Manager, Prosper Portland, and I am presenting Resolution 7276, the adoption of the fiscal year 18-19 budget, the final stage of this year's budget process. So I have a brief presentation to talk about some of the changes that occurred over the last month or two, and then some changes we're recommending, some final minor adjustments for adoption today for this action. It doesn't work. Is it stuck? Or is it off? Technical difficulties. So I'll start out by stating where we've been with the proposed budget. When I was before you in April, the mayor proposed the budget on April 30th with recommendations for city general fund funding. Right after that, we presented the Prosper Portland proposed budget on May 9th, and council approval occurred on May 16th. Followed by the TSCC hearing today with commission adoption scheduled for today. It's scheduled within the mayor's budget and council approval of the budget was general fund cut packages of $228,000 and add packages of $1.1 million. The $1.1 million was, turn it on, that's that, thanks. $1.1 million of the 1.8 that was originally requested in February, which included the Inclusive Business Resource Network Program, another year funding for the Portland Film Office, support for the Portland Brownfield Tax Exemption Program, expanding the workforce navigators for the NPIs, expansion of the Mercatus, and My People's Market, and additional funding for Venture Portland. Of the 5% reductions, all were taken except about $40,000 that was restored for workforce training and Venture Portland ongoing funding. Of the add packages, as I just mentioned, 1.1 million of the 1.8 was ultimately supported through the process in May. So in total, that came out to $6.5 million. It might be a little difficult to see on the screen, but we originally had a base budget of $5.7 million, reductions of $268,000, requested adds of $1.8 million for a total of just short of $7 million in total for the requested budget. So with a cut of $228,000 and an add of $1.1 million, that landed at $6.5 million. That's being included in the approved budget and the adopted budget today for general fund citywide funding. So the adds that were supported by council include the add of $375,000 to the Inclusive Business Resource Network, $25,000 for one-time funding related to Neighborhood Prosperity Network, the $200,000 for Venture Portland, and $100,000 for expansion of the Mercatus, People's Market, the $142,000 for one more year of funding for the Portland Film Office, and then $108,000 for traded sector inclusive business growth, and $150,000 for Brownfield Property Tax Exemption Administration. That adds up to the $1.1 million that was ultimately approved. So it was pretty good progress between January through May in coming forward on the $1.8 million ultimately approved. So in total, how that looks compared to prior years, the $6.5 million is a little bit less than what was requested, about $700,000 less, but higher than the 17-18 budget and higher than prior year budgets when all general fund funds are added together. Now with that, and included with community development block grant funds and enterprise zone resources, that adds up to the $10 million that provides citywide economic development funding that's included in the approved and now the adopted recommended budget. One change that was also included during the approval process was a true-up of the community development block grant funds. There's an additional $200,000 that was included in Portland's allocation directed towards economic development, the EOI program. So that was good news, being added to support workforce programs in the citywide budget as well. Some perspective on the housing set-aside. We've talked about how funds are allocated to the Portland Housing Bureau through the housing set-aside policy and how that changes and ebbs and flows from year to year based on the timing of projects. In total, what this illustrates is that in this current year, 17-18, that we're just finishing up, there was about $60 million that was allocated for spending. Some of that's likely to not spend and will probably show up in our fall budget adjustment next fall for the 18-19 budget. But right now, our base budget for 18-19 for the Portland Housing Bureau is about $58.8 million for projects. And as we talked about with the TSCC, the largest allocation is in interstate with $33.1 million. Now, over the remaining life of the URAs, there's about $252.8 million left based on the maximum indebtedness and the end dates of the URAs. That's our forecast based on the revised set-aside policy that we spoke with the TSCC about. So as you can see, those dollars go down over time as URAs expire, projects complete. However, some of the $58.8 million and the $60 million this year are likely to flow into some of those future years based on how committed dollars ultimately spend based on the cash flow projects. So we'll revisit this again in the fall when we amend the budget. I'm looking at changes coming up for the adoption of the budget today. We just have minor adjustments for personnel and staffing, minor project and property management adjustments, and some final housing set-aside adjustments we received from the Portland Housing Bureau this week or last week. The adjustments for personnel include final health and dental premium estimates. At this time of the year, we receive what our maximum rates will be for next year. So we have better information than we had in January, can incorporate that into the budget. The good news is that's a little bit lower, so we actually have about a $60,000 savings overall to our personnel budget as a result. So that's reflected in our staffing allocations throughout the agency, but we also take the opportunity to allocate how that staff time is spent between different projects in different URAs. So project managers take another look at how spending may occur for different projects and what those needs might be. And so as you look at Exhibit A and some of the fund-by-fund budget changes, you'll see decreases or increases in different items, and that reflects how staffing has gone up or down based on how project managers have allocated some adjustments to those projects. So in total, personnel estimate is going down from what we estimated in January, but it's getting reallocated based on kind of sharpening of the pencil and where projects are expected to spend. And of course, we'll revisit this mid-year as we revise the budget.
Tony, would you go back one slide?
Sure.
I'm just curious, so the 2024 to 25, what's the big bump up there?
The $24.8 million?
Yeah.
That's the final issuance of debt in North Macadam. It's the last URA that's anticipated to issue debt. So there's going to be, right now, programmed a large bond issue to take advantage of the final debt availability in that district before the end date. And based on the set-aside policy, that's the amount that would go towards housing. Now, working with PHB, we can do some adjustments to timing. However, the more we borrow earlier, if we issue more debt earlier, that'll put more pressure on the forecast as we expend more tax increment on interest cost or issuance cost or bond reserves. So to the extent that we borrow, or PHB needs to borrow sooner, the amounts might go down. The actual dollars for projects might go down as a result of financing costs. But right now, that's the amount that PHB and Prosper Portland have agreed on for that year in the forecast. So one last slide illustrating Exhibit A. This is the summary of Exhibit A, rolling up all the fund-by-fund appropriations in detail within the appropriation categories. We had a proposed budget of $227.9 million, decreased slightly in the City Council approved budget of $227.7 million, and today we're requesting $227.9 million. So we're back to where we started with the proposed, but with some minor adjustments within the categories based on how staffing more than anything has been reallocated. So in this case here, between approved and adopted, we have reallocated staff time from general administration, that's the $61,000 decrease, and more towards property redevelopment. Those are the specific projects and the specific URAs that we require kind of a sharpening of the pencil of how much staff time is required. And again, housing provided a recent update of $226,000. That represents mainly an increase in rents based on the timing of projects and cash flow. So we roll these changes together, and the net change is about $290,000 from council approved. Our contingency goes down about $843,000. That's based on truing up other resources, some estimates of loan, principal and interest collections, and other fees and charges. And over time, we'll continue to monitor and update that through the fiscal year. So I'd be happy to take any questions on Exhibit A or any other aspects of the recommended budget changes.
Any comments, questions?
I mean, it's held
We're
up
good?
pretty well. Yeah.
Yeah, they turned out pretty well in the end. Yeah, it's great. Thank you. It's a good summary. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, well, I would accept a motion then to approve resolution number 7276, adopting the annual budget of Prosper Portland for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2018 and ending June 30, 2019, and making appropriate appropriations.
Move to adopt.
Thank you. Second.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
I'm sorry, Chair, can I just mention really quickly, because it is an enormous undertaking to put together a budget that has 26 different funds and goes through so many different processes, so I just want to emphasize our appreciation to you, Tony, and to your team, to Francis and to Courtney, to Faye Brown, who is our CFO and helps make sure that this all goes smoothly. I also want to appreciate Mayor Wheeler and his leadership in allocating in a tough budget some of these really important priorities to our Budget Advisory Committee. Really appreciate their thoughtful advice throughout the process. And to Business for a Better Portland, who came out and spoke last time, but who really helped us, I think, within City Council. So just want to express, my gratitude to everyone for this budget process. It was really positive. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And it looks like the federal government held out too.
Yes.
That
Yes.
Senator Merkley was able to produce for us at the federal level with the Community Development Block Grants and also the Neighborhood Reinvestment Corporation grants. So
Yeah.
it looks like the stars aligned, so awesome.
Great.
Thank you.
Well done.
Okay, so next is item 11. This is an action item, adopting rules for the Affordable Commercial Space Bonus Program. Kira Straussman and Allison Wicks present. Welcome, Kira and Allison. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair Cruz, Commissioners. We're pleased to bring forward what amounts to an update on progress that we've made on our affordable commercial program, but with our partners at the Bureau of Planning and Sustainability, and through a vote at City Council. We are the proud owners of a new program, the Affordable Commercial Space Bonus Program. In the audience today, we have Barry Manning, the senior planner at the Bureau of Planning and Sustainability, who has worked tirelessly on this effort. So I want to thank Barry personally for his professionalism and support as we've moved this through the 2035 update of the central city plan, of which this is a small feature. Small to the plan overall, but I think important and encouraging to those that are experiencing the pressure of gentrification in the city's neighborhood commercial districts. What we propose to do this afternoon is giving you an overview of these set of administrative rules that we've worked out between City Council and the Planning Department to allow people to access this program as a bonus. Allison Wicks has been working on this as tirelessly as Barry and our team. So she's got a lot of the details. This is not the entire affordable commercial program. What we're presenting today is what we've proposed and has been accepted as administrative rules to run this bonus program, which will be the responsibility partly of Prosper Portland, partly of our partners at the Bureau of Planning, but also the Bureau of Development Services, who's also allied with this program. So we'll just walk through what we're going to do here.
And I also just want to recognize that Teresa St. Martin, one of the Planning and Sustainability Commissioners, is also here. Is this on? How about now?
Okay.
Closer. Thank you, Justin. Okay, so before we jump in, the last time you saw us talking about affordable commercial was in November, and we shared the affordable commercial framework. So just as a reminder that to us, commercial affordability is not just one thing. It's not a reduced rent rate or free space. It's a comprehensive framework to address citywide issues of commercial affordability. This framework is made up of kind of 3 different sets of tools. One around access to public and privately managed space, business coaching and technical assistance, and as well as financial support for businesses. We are currently piloting this framework within 4 different projects: Alberta Commons, 10th and Yamhill Garage downtown, and then Lentz Commons and Oliver Station in Lentz. These 4 pilot projects each include all 3 aspects of the affordable commercial framework, as does the affordable commercial space bonus. So as Kira mentioned, the concept of the affordable commercial space floor area ratio and height bonus came out of an effort of the City of Portland 2035 comprehensive plan to consolidate all the existing bonuses. There used to be a suite of 10 different bonuses that a developer could choose from. Now they've really narrowed it down to the bonuses you can reach through inclusionary housing and this affordable commercial space bonus. The code language for the affordable commercial space bonus was edited through the Code Reconciliation project, which was led by Barry Manning, which was just approved at City Council this past month. But we started working with Bureau of Planning staff on the affordable commercial space bonus structure and administrative rules about a year ago. We were asked to look if the existing affordable commercial code language was something that we supported, and if this was a tool that we wanted to pursue and then take on as a program and implement. We convened a stakeholder advisory committee, which reviewed program options and gave a recommendation. We took that recommendation to the Planning and Sustainability Commission, which had some very strong opinions about this program and really tested us and pushed us to refine the concepts that we brought to them. And Teresa will share some more about that. And then we're here today to ask for the approval of the set of administrative rules that will guide the affordable commercial space bonus program, and then we'll take the same item to City Council next week. I just want to take a moment to thank our Stakeholder Advisory Committee and the members of the Planning and Sustainability Commission that sat on this committee. They volunteered their time to write new zoning code language and vet these administrative rules. The committee consisted of PSC members, brokers, business district managers, and then also a couple of local developers. Okay, so the affordable commercial space floor area ratio bonus has a set of 5 goals to support businesses led by communities of color and other marginalized individuals, to increase the square footage of affordable commercial space available to businesses, to reduce barriers of entry to new construction, and to ease the challenge of commercial gentrification and business displacement in the City of Portland's commercial corridors. And then also to advance the Prosper Portland goal of building an equitable economy. The bonus is available across the City of Portland's mixed-use commercial zones. It's not available in the Central City. It's not available in the Gateway Plan District, and it's not available in historic or conservation districts. So mostly in kind of neighborhood commercial areas. Yeah, sure. Yes, it is all the zones. Correct. Yeah. So one thing to highlight is that these are areas that are in urban renewal areas and the areas outside of urban renewal areas as well. So that's something that's exciting to be able to, provide affordable commercial space outside of urban renewal areas. Okay, so the affordable commercial bonus is a floor area ratio bonus. For every square foot of affordable commercial space that's provided on-site, a developer can access 2 square feet of floor area ratio. Or a developer could choose to pay into an affordable commercial fund and also access that bonus FAR. It is not a mandatory program. That's something that, given that IH is mandatory, that's a question I got a lot, so it's not mandatory. It's only in commercial mixed-use zones, and it's only for projects that are fewer than 20 residential units. If you're going to have a project that's over 20 residential units, then you're going to be kicked into the inclusionary housing program and have access to all bonus FAR through that. Projects can currently access this bonus FAR by paying the inclusionary housing fee in lieu, so it's not adding any additional FAR to the city. And then those that will benefit from this are qualified businesses, which include local businesses, women-owned, business owned by communities of color, and nonprofits that served underserved communities. And there will also be a financial review of these businesses. So the administrative rules outline both an on-site option and the payment into the Affordable Commercial Fund option. We've been working with the Bureau of Planning and the Bureau of Development Services to kind of create a standard operating procedure for the permitting process. These rules are something that with board approval that can have edits or changes to them in the future. So this is kind of our our first round. One of my favorite things that one of the Planning and Sustainability Commissioners said was, I want to talk about this. I don't want to keep talking about this for another year. I want you to come back and tell me in a year how it's going. And so that's kind of the mentality that we're taking to these.
And in keeping with our overall progress on pilots, so we don't know what we're doing entirely until we understand how the market responds to it. So this gives the opportunity for the market to respond, and then we can make corrective measures if we need to.
Yeah. So a little bit of detail about the on-site option. This requires a developer to provide a high level of tenant improvements, so a hot shell instead of a warm shell or a cold shell build out. This is a level of tenant improvements that's above and beyond what a landlord would typically build out, so it's something that we're asking the developer to put more into a project rather than asking the tenant to bring those dollars to the table, essentially. There are leasing requirements, so the business must be qualified by Prosper Portland as a local business, women-owned business owned by a person of color or a nonprofit organization. They'll pass a financial evaluation, and if the building owner needs to re-tenant within the 10-year affordability period, they'll have to go back to that qualified pool of tenants. There is a remedy if through the annual reporting, if a building is found to be out of compliance with the program, they'll have to pay the full Affordable Commercial Fund payment, which is in line with how inclusionary housing works, that you have to pay the full fee in lieu if you're found out of compliance during the compliance period for inclusionary housing. And then finally, a little bit about the Affordable Commercial Fund. So it is something that the fees mirror the inclusionary housing fees. So we set our fees the same as inclusionary housing. And it's something that you would pay for every square foot of bonus FAR that you want to access, you would pay the fee for. And payment proceeds would support affordable commercial projects that we're pursuing, and it's something that can be used citywide, which is also an exciting feature of that. So our next steps are to continue to coordinate with the Bureau of Planning and the Bureau of Development Services on kind of the implementation process for this. But since the zoning code language passed, you could go down to the counter and apply for this right now. So that's exciting. Ongoing, we're going to continue to evaluate our pilot projects and lessons learned for the affordable commercial framework as a whole. We want to conduct market analysis and still do more outreach to small businesses and business districts, and convene an advisory committee for this work. And then we want to continue to explore options for new resources and securing resources to launch broader technical assistance. And then also be sure to report back to the Planning and Sustainability Commission on this effort specifically.
And you guys too.
Okay. Any questions, comments?
Have you had a chance to have, I imagine, a lot of direct conversations with developers, building owners who are very interested in using this program or are already beginning to line up to use it now that it's becoming available?
I'm definitely getting phone calls, and sort of as I walk through the requirements, it's like they get more and more interested. So we'll see.
So I'd like to introduce our guest.
Yeah.
If you could.
You can introduce yourself.
Okay. Teresa St. Martin with the Planning and Sustainability Commission, and I was on the Stakeholder Advisory Committee. What I wanted to do first was just to really compliment you on the good work that you did in terms of pulling together a diverse group of people that all had good input and different perspectives, and from going beyond just saying, okay, rent reduction, to really pulling some of the threads to bring a program that will actually really help folks get into affordable commercial space, and also that will align with what developers are looking for so that we can actually get some uptake on the program. We definitely, as PSC, recognize it's part of a toolkit. There's a lot of different things that need to come together to help our entrepreneurs be successful. Because it is innovative, a couple of items that we really asked for was to really monitor what was going on with the program and make adjustments as necessary along the way, because you're going to get some good feedback as you're moving through. And with anything new, you're a genius if you get it right the first time, but you're probably more like a normal person if you make some modifications along the way that will bring it into good use. And then secondly, we just asked, because it is innovative and we should all learn from this, that we get some reporting back into PSC and probably City Council, so maybe after a year, see what's happening, and also not to be shy. If it's not working, then let's talk about it and see if we can do something that will make it better. And lastly, just in general, the diversity of our entrepreneurs in Portland is really important. It keeps us being a vibrant city, and it's what we really want to see and support. So this being a part of the program, hopefully, will help everyone to get there.
Thank you. Well, I want to say again, the support that you gave us was actually interrogating the program. So I think even though it was a tough discussion, I think the concerns that the commission raised were valid and needed to be addressed. And, we'll see if we got the right mix. But it was because you had a kind of complementary approach to working through the market integrity of what we're doing. So I want to really thank you guys for an active participation in this process.
Allison, I think you mentioned this at the end there, but so the fund, if folks pay into the fund, that money comes to Prosper Portland to support the affordable commercial program?
Yep. Tony will create the fund here at Prosper Portland, and then it's something that we can use to, support tenant improvement projects outside of urban renewal areas. So we can use it citywide.
And are you the administrator of this program?
Yeah, all the checks are just made out to me.
Well, no, it's interesting because it could, again, you won't really know, right, until the market, it hits the market and we see what the response is, but it could be fairly cumbersome. And so the resources to pay for that, I guess, are coming from the potential fees that come out of it. And
yeah, since it'll be one source of funds to keep the program administrated on our side, I think, we're encouraged by the Planning Commission to really invest in the capital front end of what we're doing here. So I think being able to utilize these funds outside of URAs will be really important. And that's what we'll hopefully see. We also just hope that the developers will use the program for the space bonus. We really want to see the integrity in the actual, perpetuating of newer spaces that people can access. That's really the goal for all of us.
A quick question. Thank you. This is awesome to kind of see it come into fruition. I was curious, the financial review piece for the businesses, for the potential minority entrepreneurs. The reality is that a number of minority entrepreneurs struggle with lines of credit and things like that. So I'm wondering, on the one hand, if we are planning on moving down parallel tracks, if we want to support this endeavor of getting more minority entrepreneurs into these spaces to thrive, are we offering them, if they're not sort of financially, I'll use the word astute, and don't immediately qualify, are there some remediation, or is there opportunity for remediation that we're providing or that the Bureau will be partnering to provide?
Yeah, and I think that's just important that this program doesn't sit alone at Prosper Portland, that it sits with the work that the Inclusive Business Resource Network is doing, and that's where I kind of hope to kind of source tenants as well. So these businesses will have kind of gone through technical assistance or can be paired with someone who can provide technical assistance kind of as they express interest in it, in the program.
It's sort of an ever-evolving process, right? So it's a learning collaborative, it's fluid, there should be opportunities for learning and figuring out how to, there's one thing to put someone in orbit, it's another thing for them to figure out how to stay there, right? And so I think that there should be some vested interest that we have moving forward to support these businesses. That's the real equity discussion, right? So it's how do we create the conditions, we set expectations, and how do we create the conditions to ensure that everyone can meet those expectations, and that may require different levels of resource and wraparound. And so hopefully our partners, we can continue to kind of engage them in that conversation to ensure the success of the program and the entrepreneurs.
You bring valid concerns to the table, and I think, what's fascinating to watch these businesses when they're starting to look at commercial leasing is, commercial leases are much more complicated than anything you're going to see on the residential side. I've seen 80-page leases for 1,200 square feet of space, and there are generally a lot of obligations that you wouldn't anticipate, like HVAC might be your responsibility, plumbing may be your responsibility. So we really wanted to mirror the opportunity with the technical assistance so that we can have the education to allow people to sustain their businesses over the long haul, which is really our goal, isn't it?
Great. Any other comments? Oh,
yeah, just a note of, I think there's going to be probably more administrative time than we're all giving ourselves thinking about in terms of the curation aspect to this, because it seems like there's going to be a lot of matchmaking that's going to be going on, right, between the pool of potential tenants and businesses that we're working with through the IBRN who could slot into these new developments as they come online. And then, as Commissioner Moreland-Boyd was saying, there's going to be a lot of ongoing support, right, to make sure that they're there 2 to 3 years later. So I think that's just something we may want to be thinking about from the budgetary perspective and just set aside. Just go ahead and just kind of earmark, okay, we're going to have some extra funds here that we're going to need to play with. And then I'm wondering about, because I'm a little not as experienced in this space, what kind of upfront or ongoing marketing do we need to be doing to encourage and broadcast, right, the program, cast a wide net, let developers know here and there, right, outside of the URAs, that this is a program that we want them to use, right? They have a bonus. They have an opportunity to do this when we're there to support the tenanting process, which is kind of a pain in the, for a lot of developers, particularly with these smaller developments. So I think, if I were in the development game, I'd want to know more and have that outreach and know that the services extend beyond just the particular bonus. So, yeah.
We need to develop a marketing plan for this endeavor. I think, the other thing that's going to be really, I believe, interesting to developers is in this qualifying process, we're going to be developing a pipeline of potential tenants that we've already established are creditworthy and are available. So even if they're not necessarily going into spaces that we control or own, we're going to have a repository of tenants that we've evaluated, and that's very unusual, especially for these smaller shops. So I think that's going to be a benefit that's unintended that comes out, or that was not baked into it at the beginning, but I think could be good for everybody.
Yeah, and I think, again, I just foresee if everything works as intended, you're going to be busy, and and it will put Prosper in even more in this role of being the trusted broker, right? And being that partner that developers look to say, okay, I've got this project, help me, right? Help me make it work so that we can achieve our goals together. So I think it's an exciting pilot. Look forward to tracking it.
Thanks for your support.
Yeah, likewise. I'm really excited about this, and I look forward to hearing how the development community embraces it. And frankly, I hope that we have the problem of too much work with it and, and too much money to spread around. So hopefully that will all come to fruition.
Yeah, that's progress.
So yes,
Great.
That will be a good thing. So any further comments? No? Okay.
Thanks,
Well, thanks
Teresa,
very
for
much.
coming out,
And
and
thank you,
Barry.
Ms. St. Martin, for coming today, and thank you for your service on the commission, too. Really appreciate that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, so I would accept a motion to approve resolution number 7277, adopting administrative rules for the Affordable Commercial Space Program.
Motion to approve.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you. Okay, and I'd like to confirm that Commissioner Myers is on the phone?
Yes, I am.
You're there. Excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
And I believe I heard you, Commissioner Myers. Thank you. Okay, great. All right, next we have item 12. This is an information item. It's an update on asset management activities, and Amy Edwards will present today. Thank you.
Good afternoon. We're in the home stretch, aren't we?
Yes.
Good afternoon, Chair Cruz, Commissioners, Executive Director Branham. My name's Amy Edwards. I'm the Asset and Investment Manager in the Development and Investment Department, and I'm here to update you on our asset management activities. As you may recall, I was back here with our Development Director, Kara Strassman, giving you an update in October of 2017. Since then, we have accomplished quite a bit, and we still have a lot of work to do, but we have some good news that we wanted to share with you. To recap, Prosper Portland has historically acquired and held assets primarily for the purpose of redevelopment, such as the Burnside Bridgehead, River Place, Killingsworth Station, and numerous other examples around Portland. With the adoption of the strategic plan and the financial sustainability plan, the focus has shifted toward acquisition that's also designed for long-term ownership and revenue generation in order to create a funding stream for our economic development projects as well as other agency priorities. Currently, we have 51, soon to be 52 assets with the acquisition of Block 25 for a total estimated value of $357.5 million and $4.06 million in gross revenue for year-to-date fiscal year 17-18 as of April 30th. That's a modest increase of approximately 4% over the comparable period in the last fiscal year. The successful shift to a revenue generation model requires a change in the way we manage our assets, and to that end, we've undertaken a number of initiatives in support of this goal. Coincidentally, the transition coincided with a city audit back in November 2017, when the report was issued, that focused on our income-generating properties, including Union Station, the Inn at the Convention Center, Station Place Garage, and of course, I blank out on the last one at the last minute. It will come up, I promise. Focusing on our key areas of work. So to let you know that these 4 initiatives, the software, policies, capital planning, and property plans, are the asset management team's touchstones, allowing us to fulfill Goal 5 of the strategic plan. As I said, we've made a lot of progress, and in some cases, the work has taken us a bit longer than we had anticipated. However, the quality of our output is higher due to the time and effort invested in each initiative. We look forward to returning to address you again in the fall and winter to report on further accomplishments and to request approval for upcoming work products. So the 4 principles are software solutions, policy updates, capital planning, and the individual property plans. We'll begin with software. As you may remember, the goals for implementing the asset management software system were threefold: increasing efficiency, allowing for comprehensive analyses, and robust reporting. The asset management team, who unfortunately couldn't make it here this afternoon, are comprised of 2 individuals, Ember Breckenridge, who has primary responsibility for our self-managed assets, which are typically non-tenanted buildings or parcels of land, and Ian McLeod, who is our leasing specialist and is responsible for properties with third-party property managers. As you can imagine, with 51 and almost 52 assets, they have plenty of work on their plate. So in order to manage the portfolio to the level that's reflective of our agency goals, we needed a system that would allow us to achieve a level of automation that would not only allow us to work smarter, but also work at a higher level. In short, we needed a system that would allow us to move from pure property management to true asset management. To that end, we issued a competitive RFP last summer, signed a contract with Yardi Systems in October, and due to the resource constraints and our expertise being in real estate, not software implementation, we hired Hot Systems, who is a specialist in Yardi Microsoft Dynamics integration, and we officially launched the project in February of this year. So the choice to hire that project manager was well justified. We knew that it was going to be complicated and challenging, but it surpassed our expectations in terms of complexity and labor intensity. We in asset management are forever indebted to our extremely talented and also extremely busy accounting team, not only for the investment of time and effort, but also their generosity in educating us along the way. We learned quite a lot about our accounting systems, including our own Dynamics software platform. Our collaboration with our accounting colleagues resulted in a greater understanding not only about how different Yardi and AX are as systems, but they also helped us refine our goals and manage our expectations with respect to Yardi's capability. In terms of where we are in the implementation timeline, we have largely completed the build-out of our system and are entering the testing phase. This is expected to last throughout the summer. During the testing phase, we will run parallel checks, and at the end of testing, when we launch the implementation or go live in their parlance, we will be communicating between systems. So in order to make sure that the process is error-free, we will launch or go live in the fall. That is an anticipated date, of course, fingers crossed. The next element of our work is our policy updates. Prosper Portland's policies and procedures are touchstone documents, codifying our agency principles and providing the roadmap for the projects, activities, and initiatives that embody those principles. Much like the software implementation, the process of revising our policies has also been more complex and also more substantive than originally anticipated. Whereas we began the process in the spring of 2017 with a narrow focus on real estate management, we quickly realized that a comprehensive review of all real estate-focused policies, procedures, and other supporting documentation was needed, and that this work could not be done in isolation. Currently, we have a real estate board policy, administrative policies on valuation, acquisition, and disposition. We do not currently have a policy for real estate management, but we do have administrative procedures for that. Conversely, we do not have administrative procedures for acquisition, disposition, or valuation, but we do have business manuals or workbooks for acquisition and disposition. Are you confused yet? I was. To sort out the web of documents, we have regular and iterative conversations and brainstorming sessions with our colleagues within the department and throughout the agency. Because these documents function as a collective, interdependent body of work, we have to spend the time to make sure they are not only in sync, but reflective of our strategic direction, our focus on equity, and our financial sustainability goals vis-a-vis changing market conditions. Therefore, we're not quite ready to bring the revised policies to you at this time. Rather, we hope to come back to you in the winter for approval of those documents. The third element is capital planning. Long-range capital planning makes all the difference in terms of maintaining sound investment. Capital planning informs budgeting for future needs, strategies for preserving asset value, and making long-term investment decisions. In the interim period prior to the completion of the Yardi implementation, we've worked with our accounting colleagues to institute a level of budgeting that allows for a cash cushion at the individual property level in the event that said property required a capital investment. This was a departure from our previous method of budgeting, which held funds in a general contingency account. The distinction is important, as it signaled a shift in how the agency viewed the individual properties in our portfolio. By budgeting on a property level, rather than on a URA or project level, the agency is better able to analyze the financial performance of both the individual properties as well as the portfolio as a whole, which further signals the shift from property management to asset management. In addition, we initiated property condition assessments with 2 of the properties identified in the city audit report, Union Station and the Inn at the Convention Center. These assessments were absolutely essential in order to focus not only on our near-term budgeting activities, but also to make key strategic decisions regarding the assets. In each case, the property condition assessment provided the framework by which we prioritized investments for asset preservation as well as financial performance. The property condition assessment for the Inn at the Convention Center also provided us with a sense of scale of the required investment such that it informed the structure of our future operating agreement. To that end, we recently issued a competitive RFP for a new hotel operator with responses due in July. Similarly, the results of the assessment of Union Station, combined with the outcome of our ongoing lease negotiations with Amtrak and our efforts toward maximizing occupancy of the office units, will inform the forthcoming RFP for station operations, which we hope to issue in the fall. And while we're on the subject of RFPs, we issued an RFP for consolidated parking operations in March of 2018, selecting City Center Parking as the operator of our garages and lots, which we anticipate will result in operational efficiency and cost containment. That contract is now in the final stages of negotiation, and we sincerely hope to execute it by the end of the month. The final element is the property plans. The property plans are where the efforts surrounding the previous 3 initiatives crystallize. We've created a template in Yardi, which will allow us to automatically create a property plan from data inputs. This will not only satisfy our previous criteria for these plans, which was a centralized location for strategic, financial, and mission-focused property-level information, but it will also allow us to quickly and efficiently share up-to-date information with you, the board, leadership, bureau partners, and other stakeholders in a user-friendly format. The plans are broken out into 3 sections: property data, It's just the facts. Project data, which would reflect action plans, community priorities, program information, such as the Affordable Commercial Tenanting Program, as well as how the property executes on our equity goals. And finally, the budget or financial data, which reflect both historical and projected performance. This information is comprehensive, yet it gives a concise picture of the asset on which further discussion and decisions can be centered. We've achieved a lot, as I've mentioned, but we still have more work to do. So you can see that in the summer, we will be taking the financial sustainability to the board for approval, not me personally. We will also be executing the parking management agreement, as I mentioned, continuing our lease negotiations with Amtrak, and completing the testing phase of Yardi. In the fall, when the leaves turn, we will go live with Yardi. We'll bring the hotel operator to the board for approval. We'll complete our capital budgeting and risk assessments, and hopefully issue the RFP for the Union Station operator. In the winter, we will bring the revised policies to the board, as well as begin the process of generating the quarterly reports from Yardi that will allow us to share the portfolio performance with you. Thank you very much. Any questions?
Just a simple kind of, as a property manager and landlord, right, which is what we're becoming, at some point there's going to be some existing tension between the desire to, maximize returns, right, through increased rents, and then also the equitable goals that and policies that we have. So I'm wondering how that's built into, or if it can be built into the Yardi system, or if that's just something that will be the human element that we'll be evaluating.
It's definitely a combination of the two. The ability to gather the information through the property plans will allow for us to have these conversations on the human level, but we anticipate through that process of discussion trying to develop a series of metrics that would effectively balance those competing, at times, priorities, and to create a transparent system by which we can convey the decisions that we make and how they're made.
Further comments? Well, I'm excited to see the Yardi system come online, and the samples that were provided were great. So looking forward to it.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate the presentation. Okay. So now we're going to make another shift. We're going to adjourn the Prosper Portland Board meeting and convene a regular meeting of the Governing Board of the Portland Community Investment Fund. We have several items to consider, and now John Wasserman and...
Mr. Chairman, before we begin, again, I'd like to disclose that in this upcoming item, number 13, that as the board chair for Hacienda CDC, again, I have no legal conflict of interest with me voting on the upcoming matter. However, in the interest of disclosure, as well as to eliminate any perceived conflict, I will excuse myself now from the remainder of the meeting, and you can vote in my absence.
Thank you, Commissioner Platt. Have a good evening. All right, so John and Justin, welcome.
Good afternoon, Chair Cruz, Commissioners, Executive Director Branham. I'm Justin Douglas, Policy Manager.
And I'm John Wasserman, Assistant General Counsel.
This is John's first presentation in front of the board, so it's like a christening. So welcome to Portland, your recent marriage, and for your first presentation to the Prosper Portland Board.
Have some hazing ritual here or something.
No hazing,
but,
that's
Sorry.
That would be a true christening, yes. So thank you, Justin, for that introduction, and thank you, Chair Cruz, and to the commissioners, and to Executive Director Branham. I'm looking forward to working with you. I've been here since January of this year, so it's my 5th month here.
Happy to have you, John. Okay, so John and I are going to go over this presentation presenting to you as the Portland Community Investment Fund Governing Board on our current application or our intended application to submit for an allocation of New Markets tax credits. Obviously, this came up during the Tax Supervising Conservation Commission hearing, but we wanted to go into some greater detail. So I'm going to give just a brief background of why we're doing this and what the role or why what role the governing board has played in the last year and a half. I'll give a brief high-level refresher of the New Market Tax Credit Program. Talk about the roles and responsibilities, what the role is for the governing board and what the role is for an advisory board. Briefly touch on our application summary, which is described in Exhibit A in your packets. I talk about where the pipeline projects are located across the city. I also wanted to show you some interesting maps of the census tracts that qualify for credits this year compared to last year. John will then go over the actual actions that we're asking the governing board to take, and then we'll go into some next steps. Okay, so obviously, attaining new resources for the agency are well described in the Financial Sustainability Plan, and New Market Tax Credits are one of the efforts that we're engaged in. This is a proven tool that has been around since the early 2000s. Prosper Portland actually has been involved in this in the past when we originally created the Portland family of funds. So then about a year and a half ago, as the board and staff were working through the Financial Sustainability Plan, we approached you and you directed us to create what's called a community development entity. And this is basically the federally authorized entity that's eligible to receive investments through the tax credit program. We then created what's called the Portland Community Investment Fund, or PCIF. In February of 2017, the Prosper Portland, members of the Prosper Portland board took action on behalf of the governing board at various administrative actions, and then a year ago tomorrow, the governing board authorized our application for the tax credits. Oh, one thing I will mention just about why the Financial Sustainability Plan includes the New Market Tax Credits is that not only is it a proven tool, but again, it's a tool that we can use outside of urban renewal areas, and that's important. So basically the way that the tax credit program works is it attracts private investment by allowing institutional investors, who are often banks or pension funds, to receive a credit against their federal income taxes by making a qualified equity investment in a CDE. So they couldn't invest in Prosper Portland, but they could invest in the Portland Community Investment Fund. For every dollar that is invested into a CDE, the investors receive a 39% credit on their federal tax obligations over a 7-year period. And then the CDEs use those equity investments to make investments in or loans to businesses or projects, redevelopment projects in low-income communities. So you can see by the numbers here that this has there's been $54 billion in credits authorized since the early 2000s. The award last year, Commissioner Gambetti, you touched on some of the details. There was a $3.5 billion award. I did want to touch on this just for a moment, because we obviously applied last year and we did not get an allocation. We went into this eyes wide open and knew that first-time applicants had a difficult time receiving allocation, so we felt that we probably had a 50-50 shot. When we did not receive an award, we remain very proud of our application, and while the CDFI fund does not allow us to actually speak to an individual about our application and what they liked and what they didn't, they do issue this something that's called a debriefing document. And the debriefing document is pretty arcane, but when you read through it, it gives you a sense of where we did well. And in general, there's 2 rounds of review. So staff at the CDFI fund review all of the applications, all 270 or whatever there were last year, and there's a a quantitative review where they look at our track record, our pipeline, the types of projects that we want to invest in, and we scored really well. So we basically, in that first round of applications, scored in the top third of all of those 270 applicants. And then there's a second phase, and the second phase is more of a qualitative process where staff at the CDFI fund say, we have $3.5 billion in allocations to award in 2017. Let's go through that top third of all of those applicants, and we're going to pick which ones we're going to invest in. And Commissioner Gambetti, as you noted, the majority of the successful applicants were focused on rural communities. PCIF is focused on Portland. They were focused on providing business finance or business loans. PCIF is focused on real estate projects. And there were other applicants who have very strong track records who are based in the city of Portland that have been doing this for years, and they didn't get awards either. So we were disappointed, but we also know that we really did put our best foot forward, and we felt proud. I think if we had scored in maybe the bottom third in that first round, we might have said this isn't a good fit. But we do feel that it is a good fit and that we should try our best again. So John will touch on this briefly in a moment, but the importance of the PCIF is that we need to ensure that through our governing board and our advisory board that we maintain a commitment and a mission of serving low-income communities and low-income persons. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to John, and he'll talk about the differences in the governance structure.
Sure. So there are really two governing bodies with respect to the to PCIF, one being the governing board, that is to say all of you, and then the other being the advisory board, which we are in our next slide. We have all of the names of the members, and I'll just skip briefly to that here so you can see them, and I'll go back to it in a minute, but just to spoil that part of it. So the governing board is comprised of all of the members of the Prosper Portland Board of Commissioners, and your appointment to the governing board of PCIF pursuant to PCIF's bylaws takes place automatically unless you should decline to serve on the PCIF board. So there's no christening ceremony or anything like that. It's just once you're on the Prosper Portland Board of Commissioners, you are on the PCIF board. As the slide indicates, it's responsible for general governance of PCIF. It's responsible for approving applications for new markets tax credit allocations, as we're asking you to do today. It appoints officers, as it appointed Executive Director Branham, the president, among others. And so, really runs the gamut like a board of directors for any other corporation. The advisory board is really, the legal function of it is it flows from the requirement that we maintain accountability to low-income communities. And we maintain accountability to low-income communities through representation of residents or representatives of those low-income communities on either the governing board or the advisory board. Our bylaws require that at least 4 members of the advisory board are residents or representatives of these low-income communities. And representatives can mean a number of things. In our bylaws, we define that as business owners within low-income communities. It could be employees or officials of nonprofits that serve low-income communities, et cetera. And so you'll see some of those represented in this list of advisory board members. And so the advisory board's responsibilities really, not to belabor the point, but is to advise. It's to ensure that low-income communities' needs are identified, that desired project types are identified, to evaluate the effectiveness of the qualified low-income community investments, or CALICIs in the kind of alphabet soup of new markets tax credit terms, and then also to identify potential CALICIs in the future. So they wear a number of hats, but they provide a lot of different advisory services to us.
We held a meeting of the advisory board last week, and we presented to them the Exhibit A in your packet. That's the list of the application summary and the list of pipelines. So we ran that through with the advisory board, and they provided us with some edits and tweaks, which is one of the reasons why we weren't able to get that to you until yesterday. So on that application summary, if this slide or if the summary itself looks similar to what we submitted last year, that's because it is. We're requesting a similar amount of allocations, and the strategic priorities remain the same. And the strategic priorities are also one and the same as Prosper Portland's, because PCIF is an entity established by this organization. One note on the projects themselves, just to give you a sense of what a typical project would be. They typically involve the acquisition, rehabilitation, or construction of real estate or the expansion of businesses. Now, as I mentioned before, our focus is more on capital projects and real estate. But they can include things like employment-focused projects, community-serving projects, and sometimes mixed-use commercial and residential projects, although they typically have to be more commercial than residential. So I mentioned the shifting census tract map. I wanted to share this with you just to illustrate that while most of the application is similar to last year, it is different in that some of the projects that we identified we cannot include this year because they no longer fall within qualified tracts. So what you're looking at here is the map of eligible tracts in 2017. The gray areas are eligible tracts, and these are basically tracts that have higher than average rates of lower median income and higher poverty rates. The red tracts are what the feds consider severely distressed. So those have even higher poverty rates, even lower median incomes, and they also layer on other indicators such as unemployment rates. So you can see here, this is with the spread in 2017. When you look at how that has changed over into 2018, there's a distinct lack of red severely distressed tracts in inner northeast, inner southeast, and the St. John's area, and really kind of a deepening red in outer southeast Portland. So again, this is the 2017 tracts. And then 2018, if you feel like you're at the optometrist, right, which looks better, A or B? A. So anyway, this is obviously indicative of what we know that gentrification pressures and households suffering from poverty are being pushed further and further to the east. And again, one of the projects that we included last year falls within a tract that's no longer eligible. So this is just a map of all of the eligible tracts and the project pipeline, or the Tier 1 pipeline projects that we have included in that summary. So it's sprinkled kind of across, all on the east side of Portland. There's kind of a little bit of a cluster in the Cully neighborhood. One of the things that I did want to mention about the pipeline projects is if we're fortunate enough to receive an allocation of new market tax credits, we are not committed necessarily to invest in these particular projects, nor are we precluded from investing in other projects that aren't listed. Rather, the pipeline, both the Tier 1 and the Tier 2 pipeline, is a way of articulating to the CDFI fund the types of projects that we would invest in if we were to generate, or if we were to be awarded an allocation. So the Tier 1 is kind of more of a narrative that talks about these projects in detail, and the Tier 2 says, in addition, we've got many other projects in the city of Portland that have a need to be financed. We are here today, and John will talk through in the next slide what the actions that we're requesting from the governing board. The application is due later this month on June 28th. We have been working really intently on this project. Last year, we had about a 6-month notice to prepare for this. The notice of the 2018 round came out in early May, so we basically have 6 weeks to put together what is a really complicated application process. And I just want to acknowledge that Allison Schweiger, who is in the room today, has really taken on that work, and what we did in 6 months last year, we're doing in 6 weeks this year, and it's a lot of art, it's a lot of science, and we'll be happy when we get that in on the 28th, or before the 28th, I should say. We expect that the announcement of the awards would be hopefully by the end of the calendar year. This past round, we didn't hear until February. But as Commissioner Gambetti, I think, mentioned in the TSCC hearing, it would be 2019 at the earliest date that we could actually apply credits and start underwriting projects. And then John is going to talk a little bit more about the resolution and what it entails.
Sure. Thanks, Justin. So as Justin's been describing, the primary reason for us taking this resolution to the governing board for approval is the approval of the application for an allocation of new markets tax credits. But while we're here and while we're asking you as the governing board of PCIF to approve that resolution, there are a couple of housekeeping items connected to the operation of the organization that we'd like you to approve simultaneously. The first of those is the most recent meeting of the PCIF governing board was in June of last year. And so we would ask you to approve the meeting minutes formally from that meeting. Secondly, there are a couple of operational matters. There's a vacancy in the general counsel and secretary positions with Bob Betcone moving to a different organization. So I've taken on that role, and so to provide legal services and file tax documentation and all of that exciting stuff, I'd ask that you appoint me to fill that vacancy. And then in addition, there are two sub-CDE, sub-community development entity organizations that we have created to assist us in the practical process of entering into these transactions once we, knock on wood, receive an allocation. And so in order to actually engage in transactions and also in order to renew their corporate status with the Secretary of State, we'll need operating agreements for those entities. And so we just seek authorization to delegate that authority to the president of PCIF, Executive Director Branham, to enter into those operating agreements to provide for the governance of those organizations. And then last of all, as I mentioned, approving the submittal of the allocation application.
So that concludes our formal presentation. We're happy to engage in any questions or advice or anything that you'd like to share.
Comments? Questions?
I did want to actually just disclose that I'm an owner's rep for one of the entities that's on your list of priority sites. So I don't see that as a conflict of interest, but I did just want to disclose that. My understanding is that the advisory committee, the advisory board are the ones that actually make decisions if you were to get an allocation, right, as to how they would allocate the funds. Is that correct? Is it that advisory?
I'll take a first stab at this, and then John can chime in. So yes, if we were to receive an allocation, we would go to the advisory board and say, we have an allocation of a certain amount of resources. Which of these projects, and maybe there are the tier 1, tier 2 projects, maybe they're not, do you want us to invest in? So we would have to ensure that the advisory board supported the projects that we would invest the tax credits in. We would also then need to take that back to the governing board for formal approval and more of the operational pieces of that, but that's accurate.
So this, to elaborate on Justin's response, this vote on this resolution does not approve or disapprove any one of those particular projects.
Just wanted to put that out there, though. No, and I recognize, these are highly coveted funds and wildly competitive, so not surprising, I think, that we didn't get them last year. And yeah, I can't see any reason why you wouldn't, especially because you've got something you're working off of a lot that was invested in the application last year. And even though you always think that you've got so much there that it won't be that much work going the second time around, I'm sure you're not finding that to be the case at the moment as you're scrambling to put it together. But I think it would be such a great tool for this entity to have and a resource to invest in important projects in the community. So I think it's a valiant effort, worthwhile effort.
Absolutely. Sure. No? Okay. Commissioner Myers, are you there? Any comments?
Yes, I'm here. Yep, I'm here.
Okay. All right. Well then, great. Thank you very much. Great presentation, and good luck. Hope it goes well. So I would accept a motion to approve resolution number 3, which I can describe in greater detail. Authorizing an application to the Community Development Financial Institutions Fund for an allocation of New Markets tax credits, appointing John B. Wasserman as Secretary and General Counsel, and addressing certain matters in connection with the operational and administrative functions of the Portland Community Investment Fund. So would someone like
Motion to approve.
Thank you. A second?
Second.
Thank you. All right then. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. All right. The meeting of the Portland Community Investment Fund Governing Board and the Prosper Portland Board of Commissioners is now adjourned.
Oh, that was loud.
Thank you.
Goodness.